We have two horror stories to help you sleep. We have added relaxing rain sounds in the background. Enjoy and sleep well. The forest stood silent, a sentinel guarding the secrets of the asylum hidden within its depths. Sarah Michaels stood at the edge of the tree line, her breath misting in the chilly air as she gazed upon the looming silhouette of the abandoned building. The asylum beckoned to her, its crumbling facade a testament to the darkness that lurked within. With each step, Sarah felt the weight of her past pressing down on her shoulders. The memories of her troubled childhood, the mistakes she had made, haunted her every waking moment. But this investigation offered her a chance at redemption, a chance to uncover the truth and make amends for her past sins. The forest seemed to come alive around her as she ventured deeper into its heart. The trees whispered secrets to one another, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers to ensnare her. The fog crept in, cloaking everything in a suffocating embrace, obscuring her vision and heightening her sense of unease. At last, the asylum loomed before her, a hulking mass of crumbling brick and broken windows. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest as she crossed the threshold, stepping into the darkness that lay beyond. The air was thick with dust and decay, the smell of mildew and rot assaulting her senses. She flicked on her flashlight, its beam cutting through the gloom like a knife. The corridors stretched out before her, endless and foreboding, each step echoing with the whispers of the past. She shivered, but pushed forward, driven by a relentless determination to uncover the truth. As she explored the asylum's decaying halls, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, flitting in and out of existence like ghosts. Strange noises echoed through the corridors, the creaking of floorboards, the rustling of unseen creatures. She paused, her heart racing as she heard the faint sound of laughter echoing from somewhere deep within the asylum. It was a chilling sound, full of malice and madness, sending a shiver down her spine. But still, she pressed on, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a desperate need to uncover the truth. The deeper she delved into the asylum's dark heart, the more she began to sense a malevolent presence watching her every move. It was as if the building itself was alive, a sentient being with a hunger for her soul. But Sarah refused to be intimidated, refusing to let fear dictate her actions. With each step, she felt the weight of her past sins pressing down on her, threatening to consume her whole. But she pushed forward, determined to confront her demon's head, on and emerge victorious. For within the depths of the asylum lay the key to her redemption, a chance to make amends for the mistakes of her past. And so, with her flashlight held high, Sarah Michaels ventured further into the abyss, her fate intertwined with that of the asylum and the tortured souls that dwelled within its walls. Little did she know, the true horror had only just begun. Sarah's footsteps echoed through the dimly lit corridors of the asylum, each sound reverberating off the decaying walls like a heartbeat in the silence. The air hung heavy with the scent of mold and decay, and a palpable sense of unease settled over her as she continued her exploration. The flashlight in her hand cast eerie shadows on the walls, the flickering light playing tricks on her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes following her every move. But she refused to let fear paralyze her, pressing forward with a determination born of desperation. As she moved deeper into the asylum, Sarah stumbled upon a room filled with old patient records and journals. The papers were yellowed with age, their edges frayed and brittle with decay. With trembling hands, she picked up one of the journals and began to read. The entries detailed the horrific experiments conducted by Dr. Jonathan Blackwood, the asylum's former director. Sarah's blood ran cold as she read about the cruel and inhumane treatments inflicted upon the patients, the screams of agony echoing in her mind. But it was the mention of a mysterious room 13 that sent a chill down her spine. According to the journals, Room 13 was where Dr. Blackwood conducted his most twisted experiments, pushing the boundaries of science and sanity in his quest for knowledge. Determined to uncover the truth, Sarah set out to find Room 13, her footsteps echoing through the silent corridors. The air grew colder, the darkness closing in around her like a suffocating embrace. She could feel the presence of something malevolent lurking in the shadows, watching her every move. Suddenly, she heard a faint whisper, barely audible above the sound of her own breathing. It seemed to come from all around her, a chorus of tortured voices pleading for release. Sarah's blood ran cold as she realized that she was not alone in the asylum, that the spirits of the past still lingered within its walls. With a trembling hand, she reached out to touch the nearest wall, feeling the cold, rough surface beneath her fingertips. And then she heard it again, the whisper growing louder, more insistent. It seemed to be calling her name, beckoning her deeper into the darkness. Sarah hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. But something compelled her to keep going. With a deep breath, she steeled herself and continued on, following the haunting whispers into the heart of the asylum. Little did she know, the true horror awaited her in Room 13, where the sins of the past lay waiting to be uncovered. And as she stepped into the darkness, she knew that there was no turning back. The darkness closed in around Sarah as she ventured deeper into the asylum, the whispers growing louder with each step she took. Her flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls, and a chill ran down her spine as she realized she was not alone. The air seemed to vibrate with unseen energy, a palpable sense of foreboding hanging heavy in the stale air. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest as she pressed on, her footsteps echoing through the empty corridors like a drumbeat in the silence. Suddenly, she heard a door creak open in the distance, the sound echoing through the darkness like a gunshot in the night. With a sense of trepidation, she followed the sound, her pulse quickening with each step she took. As she rounded a corner, she stumbled upon a doorway bathed in darkness, a yawning chasm leading deeper into the bowels of the asylum. Sarah hesitated, her instincts screaming at her to turn back, but something compelled her to keep going. With a deep breath, she stepped through the doorway and into the unknown, her flashlight cutting through the gloom like a beacon in the night. The corridor stretched out before her, endless and foreboding, and she felt a shiver run down her spine as she realized where she was. Room 13. The air seemed to grow colder, the darkness closing in around her like a suffocating embrace. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she ventured further into the room, her footsteps echoing off the walls like a death knell in the silence. And then she saw it. A table lay at the center of the room, surrounded by rusted medical instruments and decaying remnants of experiments long forgotten. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she realized the true horror of what had transpired within these walls. But it was what lay on the table that chilled her to the bone. A figure lay motionless beneath a blood-stained sheet, its form obscured by the darkness. With trembling hands, Sarah reached out and pulled back the sheet, revealing the face of a young woman, her eyes wide with terror and pain. It was then that Sarah realized the true horror of the asylum, the darkness that lurked within its walls, waiting to consume all who dared to enter. And as she stood there, surrounded by the ghosts of the past, she knew that she was in far deeper than she had ever imagined. For within the depths of Room 13 lay the key to unlocking the asylum's darkest secrets, and Sarah was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. But little did she know, the true horror had only just begun. Sarah stood frozen in the eerie silence of Room 13, the weight of the asylum's dark history pressing down on her like a suffocating blanket. The young woman's lifeless eyes stared up at her, accusing and haunting, as if pleading for justice from beyond the grave. With a shaky breath, Sarah tore her gaze away from the tragic sight before her and surveyed the room. The air hung heavy with the stench of death and decay, and a sense of unease settled over her like a shroud. But she refused to let fear paralyze her, steeling herself for what lay ahead. As she turned to leave, a sudden chill swept over her, sending a shiver down her spine. She felt a presence in the room, something dark and malevolent lurking in the shadows. With growing trepidation, she scanned the darkness, her heart pounding in her chest. And then she saw it. A figure stood in the corner of the room, its form obscured by the darkness. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she realized the truth. She was not alone in room 13. With a trembling hand, she reached for her flashlight, its beam cutting through the gloom like a sword. The figure stepped forward into the light, revealing the twisted visage of Dr. Jonathan Blackwood, the asylum's former director. His eyes burned with a malevolent gleam as he regarded her, a cruel smile twisting his lips. Sarah's blood ran cold as she realized the truth. Dr. Blackwood's spirit still lingered within the asylum, seeking to continue his twisted experiments. "You shouldn't have come here, Sarah." His voice echoed through the room, cold and mocking. "This is my domain, my kingdom of madness, and you, my dear, are just another pawn in my game." Sarah's heart raced as she backed away from the ghostly apparition, her mind reeling with fear and disbelief. She had heard stories of Dr. Blackwood's cruelty, but she never imagined that she would come face to face with the man himself. But as she stood there, paralyzed with fear, something stirred within her. A fierce determination welled up inside her, banishing the fear and uncertainty that threatened to consume her. With a defiant glare, she faced Dr. Blackwood head-on, refusing to be intimidated by his twisted games. "I'm not afraid of you," she spat, her voice trembling with rage. "I will uncover the truth, no matter what it takes. You can't hide from the light forever." Dr. Blackwood's smile faltered for a moment, his eyes narrowing with rage. But then, with a cold, calculating laugh, he vanished into the darkness, leaving Sarah alone once more. As she stood there, catching her breath, Sarah realized that she had crossed a line from which there was no turning back. The asylum's dark secrets were closer than ever, and she was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. But little did she know, the true horror had only just begun. And as she stepped out of room 13 and into the darkness beyond, she knew that the asylum held many more secrets, waiting to be uncovered. The echoes of Dr. Blackwood's chilling laughter lingered in the air as Sarah stepped out of room 13, her heart still pounding in her chest. The darkness seemed to press in on her from all sides, suffocating and relentless, as if the asylum itself sought to consume her. With trembling hands, she clutched her flashlight tightly, its feeble beam cutting through the gloom like a lifeline in the darkness. Every shadow seemed to conceal unseen horrors, every creak and groan of the decaying building sending shivers down her spine. But despite the overwhelming fear that threatened to overwhelm her, Sarah refused to give in to despair. With a fierce determination burning in her chest, she pressed forward, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a desperate need to uncover the truth. As she ventured deeper into the asylum, the air grew colder, the darkness more oppressive. The walls seemed to close in around her, the corridors twisting and turning like a labyrinth, leading her further into the heart of madness. Suddenly, she heard a faint sound echoing through the darkness, a haunting melody that sent chills down her spine. It was a song from her childhood, a lullaby her mother used to sing to her to chase away the nightmares. But this was no comforting memory. This was a twisted, mocking version of the song, its sweet melody twisted into something sinister and malevolent. Sarah's blood ran cold as she realized that she was not alone in the asylum, that there was something else lurking in the shadows. With growing trepidation, she followed the sound of the lullaby, her footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. The melody grew louder, more insistent, until at last she reached the source of the sound. A door stood ajar at the end of the corridor, a faint light flickering from within. With a deep breath, Sarah pushed open the door and stepped into the room, her flashlight cutting through the darkness like a beacon in the night. And there, seated at an old piano in the center of the room, was a young girl with long, dark hair and hauntingly familiar eyes. She was playing the lullaby, her fingers dancing across the keys with an otherworldly grace. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she realized the truth. The girl was a ghost, a lost soul trapped within the asylum's walls. But despite the fear that threatened to consume her, she felt a strange sense of empathy for the girl, a kinship born of shared suffering. With trembling hands, she reached out to the ghostly apparition, her voice barely a whisper. "Who are you?" she asked, her heart pounding in her chest. The girl looked up at her, her eyes brimming with tears. "I am Emily," she said, her voice soft and haunting. "I died here, trapped in this place for eternity. But you can help me." Sarah's heart ached at the girl's words, her own past traumas bubbling to the surface. She knew what it was like to be trapped in darkness, to feel the weight of despair pressing down on her. And so, with a newfound sense of purpose, she vowed to help Emily find peace, to uncover the truth behind her tragic fate. For within the depths of the asylum lay the key to unlocking the secrets of the past, and Sarah was determined to uncover them, no matter the cost. But little did she know, the true horror had only just begun. And as she stood there, facing the ghostly apparition before her, she knew that the asylum held many more secrets, waiting to be uncovered. Sarah's heart raced as she stood face to face with Emily, the ghostly apparition trapped within the asylum's walls. The young girl's eyes brimmed with tears, her spectral form flickering in the dim light of the room. With a trembling hand, Sarah reached out to the ghostly girl, her voice barely a whisper. "How can I help you?" she asked, her heart heavy with empathy for the lost soul before her. Emily's voice was soft and haunting as she spoke, her words carrying the weight of centuries of suffering. "I am trapped here, bound to this place by the darkness that surrounds us," she said. "But you have the power to set me free." Sarah's mind raced as she tried to make sense of Emily's words. She knew that the asylum held many dark secrets, but she had never imagined that it could hold the key to setting a trapped soul free. With a determined nod, she vowed to help Emily find peace, to uncover the truth behind her tragic fate. Together, they ventured deeper into the asylum, their footsteps echoing through the empty corridors like a dirge in the silence. As they explored the decaying halls, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes following their every move. But she refused to let fear paralyze her, pressing forward with a fierce determination to uncover the truth. And then they found it. A hidden chamber buried deep within the bowels of the asylum, its walls lined with ancient symbols and arcane runes. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she realized the significance of what lay before her. "This is it," Emily whispered, her voice barely audible above the sound of their breathing. "This is where the darkness took hold, where the souls of the damned were bound to this place for eternity." With trembling hands, Sarah reached out to touch the symbols carved into the walls, feeling the energy crackling beneath her fingertips. She knew that this chamber held the key to unlocking the asylum's darkest secrets, to setting Emily and the other trapped souls free. But as she stepped further into the chamber, a sense of dread washed over her, a feeling of impending doom that threatened to consume her whole. She knew that the darkness that lurked within these walls was more powerful than anything she had ever faced before. And then she heard it. A low, guttural growl emanating from the shadows. A sound that sent a shiver down her spine. With growing trepidation, she turned to face the darkness, her flashlight cutting through the gloom like a beacon in the night. And there, lurking in the shadows, was Dr. Jonathan Blackwood, his eyes burning with malevolent fury. "You dare to defy me," "You dare to defy me," he hissed, his voice cold and mocking. "You think you can challenge the darkness that dwells within these walls?" Sarah's heart raced as she faced the vengeful spirit of the asylum's former director, her mind racing with fear and uncertainty. But she refused to back down, refusing to let fear dictate her actions. With a defiant glare, she squared her shoulders and faced Dr. Blackwood head on, her voice steady despite the fear that threatened to consume her. "I will not let you win," she said, her words echoing through the chamber like a battle cry. "I will uncover the truth, no matter what it takes, and I will set Emily and the other trapped souls free." Dr. Blackwood's eyes narrowed with rage, his form flickering in the darkness like a candle in the wind. But Sarah stood her ground, her resolve unwavering in the face of overwhelming evil. And as she faced the darkness head-on, she knew that the true horror had only just begun. But she was determined to see it through to the end, to uncover the truth behind the asylum's dark secrets and set the trapped souls free, no matter the cost. Sarah stood face to face with Dr. Jonathan Blackwood, the malevolent spirit of the asylum's former director. His eyes burned with fury, his form flickering in the dim light of the hidden chamber like a wraith summoned from the depths of darkness. With a steady hand, Sarah gripped her flashlight tightly, its feeble beam cutting through the gloom like a beacon in the night. She could feel the weight of Dr. Blackwood's malevolent presence pressing down on her, threatening to overwhelm her with fear and despair. But she refused to back down, refusing to let the darkness consume her. With a defiant glare, she squared her shoulders and faced Dr. Blackwood head on, her voice steady despite the fear that threatened to consume her. "I will not let you win," she said, her words echoing through the chamber like a battle cry. "I will uncover the truth, no matter what it takes, and I will set Emily and the other trapped souls free." Dr. Blackwood's eyes narrowed with rage, his form flickering in the darkness like a candle in the wind. "You think you can challenge me?" he hissed, his voice cold and mocking. "You are nothing but a pawn in my game, Sarah. And you will never escape the darkness that dwells within these walls." But Sarah refused to be intimidated by Dr. Blackwood's twisted games. With a fierce determination burning in her chest, she raised her flashlight high and stepped forward, confronting the malevolent spirit head on. The chamber seemed to pulse with energy as Sarah and Dr. Blackwood faced off, their eyes locked in a deadly game of wills. The air crackled with tension, the darkness closing in around them like a vice. And then, with a sudden burst of light, Sarah unleashed the full power of her flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness like a sword. Dr. Blackwood recoiled in agony, his form flickering and fading as he struggled to maintain his hold on the chamber. But Sarah refused to let up, channeling all of her strength and courage into the battle against the darkness. With each passing moment, she could feel Dr. Blackwood's power waning, his grip on the asylum slipping away. And then, with one final burst of light, Sarah banished Dr. Blackwood's spirit from the chamber, his anguished screams echoing through the darkness as he was consumed by the light. With a sigh of relief, Sarah collapsed to her knees, the weight of the battle finally lifting from her shoulders. She had faced the darkness head on and emerged victorious, uncovering the truth behind the asylum's dark secrets and setting the trapped souls free. As she looked around the chamber, she realized that the darkness that had once consumed the asylum was gone, replaced by a sense of peace and tranquility. Emily stood beside her, her form glowing with ethereal light as she reached out to Sarah with a ghostly hand. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft and haunting. "You have given us peace, Sarah. We will never forget what you have done for us." With a grateful smile, Sarah reached out and took Emily's hand, feeling a sense of closure wash over her like a wave crashing against the shore. She had faced her demons and emerged victorious, and now she was ready to leave the asylum behind and begin a new chapter in her life. And as she stepped out of the hidden chamber and into the light of day, She knew that the darkness that had once consumed her had been vanquished, replaced by a newfound sense of hope and redemption. For within the depths of the asylum lay the key to unlocking the secrets of the past, and Sarah had proven that even the darkest of nightmares could be overcome with courage and determination. The world outside the cabin seemed to shrink with each passing moment, swallowed by the relentless onslaught of snow and wind. Sarah Thompson stood at the edge of the forest, her breath hanging in the frigid air like misty tendrils reaching out into the darkness. The mountain cabin loomed ahead, a solitary sentinel against the backdrop of swirling snowflakes and looming shadows. With each step she took, the snow grew deeper, swallowing her boots up to the ankles with each laborious stride. The landscape stretched out before her, a vast expanse of white punctuated only by the occasional silhouette of a tree bent low beneath the weight of winter's fury. The wind howled in protest, whipping through the branches with a sound like distant thunder, as if warning Sarah of the dangers that lay ahead. But Sarah was undeterred. With her camera bag slung over her shoulder and her eyes fixed on the distant cabin, she pressed on, driven by a sense of purpose that burned deep within her soul. She had come to this remote corner of the world in search of solitude and inspiration, a respite from the chaos of modern life and the demands of society. As she drew closer to the cabin, its weather-beaten exterior came into sharper focus, revealing layers of peeling paint and warped wood that bore the scars of countless winters gone by. The windows were dark and empty, their panes coated with a thin layer of frost that obscured whatever secrets lay within. With a trembling hand, Sarah reached out and pushed open the cabin door, the hinges groaning in protest as they swung open to reveal the darkness beyond. For a moment, she hesitated on the threshold, her heart pounding in her chest as she stared into the abyss that lay ahead. But then, with a deep breath and a resolve born of equal parts determination and desperation, Sarah stepped over the threshold and into the unknown. The interior of the cabin was dark and musty, the air heavy with the scent of damp wood and decay. She reached for the lantern that hung by the door and lit its flame, casting a flickering glow that danced across the walls like shadows in the night. As Sarah's eyes adjusted to the dim light, she began to explore the cabin's interior, her footsteps echoing off the walls with a hollow sound that seemed to reverberate through the very foundations of the earth. Each room she entered revealed new mysteries and hidden secrets, from the faded photographs that littered the floor to the ancient artifacts that lay hidden beneath the floorboards. But amidst the dust and cobwebs, Sarah sensed something else, an energy that pulsed through the air like a living thing, whispering secrets of a past long forgotten. It was a sensation that sent shivers down her spine and set her pulse racing with a mixture of fear and excitement, like the thrill of a ghostly encounter on a moonless night. And as Sarah stood alone in the darkness, surrounded by the echoes of the past and the whispers of the unknown, she knew that her journey had only just begun. For in the heart of the storm, amidst the frozen echoes of a world long forgotten, Sarah Thompson had found the inspiration she had been searching for, a spark of creativity that would ignite her soul and set her on a path that would change her life forever. The cabin's interior was a world unto itself, a labyrinth of forgotten memories and hidden secrets waiting to be unearthed. As Sarah moved deeper into its depths, the air grew colder, the darkness more oppressive, until it felt as though she was descending into the very heart of winter itself. With each step she took, the floorboards groaned beneath her feet, their protest echoing through the empty halls like the cries of lost souls searching for redemption. The flickering light of the lantern cast eerie shadows on the walls, twisting and contorting with each gust of wind that rattled the windows and shook the cabin to its core. But Sarah was undeterred. With a sense of determination that bordered on obsession, she pressed on, her eyes scanning every corner for signs of the cabin's mysterious past. She rifled through drawers and cabinets, uncovering a treasure trove of forgotten relics, A tattered journal hidden beneath a pile of old newspapers, a faded photograph tucked away in a dusty corner, its subject's eyes staring out at her from the past with a mixture of longing and despair. As Sarah pored over the journal's yellowed pages, she felt a chill run down her spine, a sensation that seemed to emanate from the very words themselves. The journal spoke of a time long ago when the cabin was alive with laughter and light, its halls filled with the warmth of family and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. But as Sarah delved deeper into its pages, she discovered darker truths lurking beneath the surface. Secrets of betrayal and tragedy, of love lost and lives shattered beyond repair. With each revelation, Sarah felt herself drawn deeper into the cabin's tangled web of deceit and despair, her mind spinning with questions that had no answers, and answers that only led to more questions. Who had lived in this cabin before her? What had become of them? And what secrets did they carry with them to their graves? But as the hours slipped by and the storm raged on outside, Sarah found herself growing weary, her eyelids heavy with exhaustion and her thoughts clouded by the weight of the past. With a sigh, she closed the journal and set it aside, resolving to continue her exploration in the morning, when the light of day would banish the shadows and reveal the truth hidden within. And as Sarah lay down to sleep, her mind awash with dreams of the past and the mysteries that lay ahead, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was not alone. That somewhere, deep within the heart of the cabin, something was watching and waiting, its presence like a whisper in the wind, echoing through the darkness with a sense of urgency that sent shivers down her spine. The first light of dawn filtered through the frosted windows of the cabin, casting a soft glow across the worn wooden floorboards. Sarah stirred from her restless slumber, her mind still swirling with fragments of dreams and half-forgotten memories. With a groan, she pushed herself upright, rubbing the sleep from her eyes as she tried to shake off the lingering sense of unease that clung to her like a shadow. As Sarah rose to her feet and stretched her stiff muscles, she felt a renewed sense of purpose wash over her, a determination to uncover the secrets that lay hidden within the cabin's walls, no matter the cost. With a sense of anticipation building in her chest, she set about her task with renewed vigor, her fingers trembling with excitement as she reached for the journal that lay waiting on the bedside table. With each page she turned, Sarah felt herself drawn deeper into the mysteries of the past, her mind racing with questions and possibilities. Who had written these words? And what had driven them to seek refuge in this remote corner of the world? As she pored over the journal's yellowed pages, Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she stumbled upon a passage that spoke of a hidden compartment beneath the cabin's floorboards. A secret chamber that held the key to unlocking the cabin's darkest secrets. With trembling hands, Sarah set the journal aside and set about her search in earnest, her heart pounding in her chest as she lifted the floorboards one by one, revealing the hidden depths that lay beneath. And there, nestled among the dust and cobwebs, she found it, a collection of ancient artifacts and crumbling manuscripts that spoke of a time long ago when the cabin was alive with the laughter of children and the warmth of family. But amidst the relics of a bygone era, Sarah's eyes were drawn to one artifact in particular, a worn leather tome that seemed to pulse with a faint energy of its own. With a sense of trepidation, she reached out and picked up the book, its pages crackling with age as she turned them with trembling fingers. And there, in the fading light of dawn, Sarah discovered the truth, the legend of Alora, the vengeful witch said to haunt the mountain cabin, her spirit bound to its walls by the sins of the past. As she read of Alora's tragic history and the events that had led to her condemnation, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine, a sensation that seemed to confirm her worst fears and yet fill her with a sense of awe and wonder at the same time. For in that moment, Sarah realized that she was not just a visitor in this strange and mysterious place. She was a part of its story, bound to its fate in ways she could not yet comprehend. And as she closed the tome and set it aside, she knew that her journey had only just begun, that the secrets of the cabin and the mysteries of the past would not rest until they had been uncovered, no matter the cost. The air inside the cabin grew heavy with tension as Sarah's fingers traced the edges of the worn leather tome that lay open before her. The pages crackled with energy, each word a whisper from the past, urging her forward into the unknown. With a sense of trepidation, she closed her eyes and took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. Outside, the storm raged on, the wind howling through the trees like a chorus of lost souls crying out for redemption. But inside the cabin, all was still, save for the steady rhythm of Sarah's heartbeat, pounding in her chest like a drumbeat, echoing through the empty halls. With a trembling hand, Sarah reached out and picked up the lantern that sat on the table beside her, its flame flickering in the darkness like a beacon of hope in a sea of uncertainty. With each step she took, the shadows seemed to grow longer, stretching out before her like the fingers of some unseen specter, reaching out to drag her into the abyss. But Sarah was undeterred. With a resolve born of equal parts fear and determination, she pressed on, her footsteps echoing off the walls with a hollow sound that seemed to reverberate through the very foundations of the earth. As she moved deeper into the cabin's depths, she felt a presence watching her, a presence that sent shivers down her spine and set her pulse racing with a mixture of dread and anticipation. And then, as if summoned by her thoughts, she saw her, a spectral figure bathed in an ethereal glow, her eyes burning with a cold fire that seemed to pierce straight through to Sarah's soul. It was Elora, the vengeful witch, whose spirit was said to haunt the mountain cabin, her presence a harbinger of doom for all who dared to trespass on her domain. With a voice like ice, Elora spoke, her words echoing through the empty halls with a chilling clarity that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. She spoke of betrayal and tragedy, of love, lost and lives shattered beyond repair, her voice dripping with venom as she recounted the sins of the past and the price that had been paid for them. But as Sarah listened, she felt a glimmer of hope stir within her, a spark of defiance that refused to be extinguished, even in the face of darkness. With a voice that trembled with emotion, she spoke out against Elora, challenging her to face the truth of her own existence and the pain that had driven her to seek revenge on those who had wronged her. And in that moment, something shifted, a subtle change in the air that seemed to soften Elora's gaze and fill the room with a sense of peace that Sarah had never known before. For in that moment, she realized that the power to confront her fears and overcome the darkness lay not in fighting it, but in embracing it. Together as one. And as Sarah stood before Elora, her heart filled with compassion and understanding, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders, a burden that she had carried with her for far too long. With a sense of release that bordered on ecstasy, she reached out and took Elora's hand, her fingers trembling with emotion as they met. And in that moment, as their hands touched and their spirits merged as one, Sarah knew that she had found the redemption she had been searching for, that in facing her fears and confronting the darkness that lurked within her own heart, she had become stronger than she had ever thought possible. And as the storm outside began to subside, and the first light of dawn crept in through the windows, Sarah and Elora stood together, united in their shared journey of forgiveness and redemption. And as they looked out at the world beyond, they knew that whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them together, hand in hand, as one. The storm outside had finally subsided, leaving behind a serene silence that hung in the air like a shroud of peace. Inside the cabin, Sarah and Elora stood together, their hands clasped in a silent communion that spoke volumes without the need for words. For Sarah, the weight of the past had been lifted from her shoulders, replaced by a sense of clarity and purpose that she had never known before. As she looked into Alara's eyes, she saw not a vengeful spirit bent on revenge, but a soul in search of redemption, a kindred spirit who had suffered as she had suffered and who had found solace in the most unlikely of places. With a sense of determination that bordered on defiance, Sarah spoke, her voice steady and strong as she offered Alora the one thing she had been denied for so long: forgiveness. For in that moment, Sarah realized that the power to break free from the chains of the past lay not in holding on to anger and resentment, but in letting go and embracing the possibility of a brighter tomorrow. And as she spoke, Sarah felt a shift in the air, a subtle change that seemed to ripple through the very fabric of reality, binding her and Alora together in a shared journey of redemption. For in facing their fears and confronting the darkness that lurked within their own hearts, they had forged a bond that could not be broken, a bond that transcended time and space, uniting them in a common purpose that would guide them through the trials that lay ahead. As the first light of dawn filtered in through the windows, Sarah and Alora stood together, their spirits entwined in a dance of forgiveness and redemption that echoed through the empty halls of the cabin like a song of hope in the darkness. And as they looked out at the world beyond, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, hand in hand, as one. For in the end, it was not the darkness that defined them, but the light that shone from within, the light of compassion, of understanding, and of forgiveness. And as Sarah and Alora stepped out into the world beyond, they did so with a sense of purpose and determination that would carry them through the darkest of nights and into the dawn of a new day. As Sarah and Alora emerged from the cabin into the crisp morning air, they were greeted by a world transformed, a world washed clean by the tears of the storm, its beauty magnified by the light of the rising sun. The snow-covered landscape stretched out before them, a pristine canvas waiting to be painted with the colors of a new day. With each step they took, Sarah felt a sense of liberation wash over her, a feeling of freedom that she had never known before. For in confronting her fears and embracing the darkness that lurked within her own heart, she had found a strength she had never known she possessed, a strength that would carry her through whatever trials lay ahead. As they walked hand in hand through the snow, Sarah and Alora shared stories of their pasts, of the trials and tribulations that had shaped them into the beings they were today. And with each tale they shared, they felt the bonds between them grow stronger, until they were no longer two separate souls, but one, a united force of compassion and understanding that would light the way for others who found themselves lost in the darkness. And as they reached the edge of the forest, Sarah and Alora turned back to look at the cabin one last time, a silent tribute to the memories they had shared within its walls, and the journey they had undertaken together. For in that moment, they knew that the cabin was not just a place of darkness and despair, but a symbol of hope and redemption, a beacon of light in a world shrouded in shadow. With a sense of gratitude and determination, Sarah and Alora turned away from the cabin and set out into the world beyond, their spirits soaring on the wings of newfound freedom and purpose. For they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, hand in hand, as one. And as they disappeared into the forest, their laughter echoing through the trees like the tinkling of wind chimes on a summer breeze, they knew that they were not alone, that the echoes of their journey would linger in the hearts of those they had touched, guiding them on their own paths of thought, redemption, and discovery. For in the end, it was not the destination that mattered, but the journey itself, the journey of self-discovery, of forgiveness, and of redemption. And as Sarah and Alora disappeared into the forest, their spirits ablaze with the light of a new day, they knew that their journey had only just begun, that the world was full of wonders waiting to be discovered, and that together they would explore them all, hand in hand, as one. Months had passed since Sarah and Alora had left the mountain cabin behind, their journey of redemption and discovery taking them to places neither of them could have imagined. As they traveled together, Hand in hand, they encountered wonders beyond their wildest dreams, a world filled with beauty and mystery waiting to be explored. For Sarah, the journey had been a revelation, a chance to leave the past behind and embrace the possibilities of the future. With Elora by her side, she had discovered a newfound sense of purpose and confidence, her photographs capturing the essence of the world around her with a clarity and depth that had eluded her in the past. As they wandered through sun-dappled forests and windswept plains, Sarah and Elora shared stories of their pasts and their hopes for the future, their laughter echoing through the empty spaces like the tinkling of wind chimes on a summer breeze. And with each passing day, they grew closer, their bond strengthened by the trials they had faced together and the triumphs they had shared. But amidst the beauty and wonder of the world, Sarah never forgot the lessons she had learned in the mountain cabin, the lessons of forgiveness and redemption that had set her on a path of self-discovery and growth. And as she looked back on her journey, she knew that she had been forever changed by the experience, that the echoes of the past would always linger in her heart, guiding her on her journey through life. And as for Elora, she had found a peace she had thought impossible, a peace born of acceptance and understanding, and of the knowledge that she was not alone in the world. With Sarah by her side, she had found a kindred spirit, a soulmate who shared her journey and her dreams, and who had shown her the power of forgiveness and love. As they stood together on the edge of a cliff, overlooking the vast expanse of the ocean, Sarah and Elora felt a sense of contentment wash over them, a feeling of peace that transcended time and space, binding them together in a bond that could never be broken. And as they watched the sun sink below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the water, they knew that their journey was far from over, that the world was full of wonders waiting to be discovered, and that together they would explore them all, hand in hand, as one.